Welcome to the second of 4 field hearings for the capital budget. I first want to thank my colleagues who are here. Immediately next to me, Councilmember Emmanuel Remy, Councilmember Jiza Page, Councilmember Mitch Brown, and President Pro Tem Michael Stinziano. And it's a pleasure to be here on the South Side. I also want to thank the directors from each of the departments that are here, directors, assistant directors, deputy directors of all sorts, who are here tonight to make sure that we present projects that are unique to the South Side. So a couple rules of the road real quick, and then I'm going to turn things over to the directors. There will be an opportunity to provide public testimony. Per council rules, each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Please make sure you fill out a speaker slip so that we can make sure you have a place in line at the microphone. In order to get through all speakers, we will answer whatever we can directly from the table up here, from the directors or from the council members. However, as you all know, some questions require us getting more information for you, and we will do that back at City Hall and make sure we're communicating back to you the answers to your questions. Again, that's why the speaker slips are important, because we'll have all that information that we need to make sure we get back in touch with you. The end of the meeting tonight is not the end of these conversations. We really look forward to working with you on the issues we talk about here, as well as other issues that arise in the future. So the format tonight will be that the directors will present the portions of the capital budget that are specifically relevant to your area. Council members, sort of the formal aspect of this is they're presenting them to council members, and we will ask questions as we have them of each department. At the end of the departmental presentations is when we will move on to speakers. And that is when we will take as many speakers as we need. As I mentioned, we are talking specifically about the South Side tonight. We welcome you no matter what corner of the city you're from, but the presentations are geared towards South Side. The specific planning areas, Planning Area 17, Green Lawn Frank Road, Planning Area 22, Near South, Planning Area 23, Far South, Planning Area 26, Rickenbacker. We have that easel up there. It highlights where each of those numbers corresponds in terms of roadways and boundaries. And the rest of these are broadly about capital budget allocations. I'd also like to welcome Council President Shannon Hardin, a native of the South Side, who's joining us here tonight. And with that, we will get started with, we're actually going to have a special beginning to tonight's meeting. The Marion Franklin Civic Association had another really important meeting that coincided with this one, so we wanted to give, they wouldn't have been able to wait until the end to testify or offer comment. So we wanted to give Mr. Robert Patterson a chance at the microphone at the beginning of the agenda. Sir.
Thank you very much. My name is Robert Patterson. Everybody ought to know me. And I'm here to give you my complaints. My first one here, I got 6 or 7 of them, and I gave James to all the rest of them. But these 3 I would like for you to try to give me an answer on tonight. Okay, y'all put a beautiful sidewalk from Fairwood to Ogmont. At the end of Fairwood, going into Wayland, it's a 6-foot hole down there in the ground. Y'all got barriers around it to stop cars from going over in it. But it fills with water. I went over the other day, yesterday, just to see how deep the water was. The water is 2 foot deep in that hole. We got where the Southfield Baptist Church is, it's a playground back there. We got a whole lot of kids. And we've been hollering. I've seen on the news where those kids in these other apartments, where they go out there and play and they fall in that water and stuff like that. What are you going to do about that hole that they left back there? And the mosquitoes this summer. We need that hole filled up. We need something done about that hole. If you can go look at it for yourself, if you want to measure it, the hole is 6 foot deep. And it's big around, it's from that table to about right here. It's about that big around, it's that big. And the water over there today is standing 2 foot high over there today. I went over there to measure so I could tell you exactly how deep the water, and that comes from the rain. I imagine that came from the rain that we had this weekend. And that's unacceptable. That's unacceptable over here. And you gonna give me an answer for that, or you gonna text them?
Go through all of
Go through all of them?
Yeah.
Okay. On Bueller and Rose Avenue, we was promised 5 years ago where we was gonna have sidewalks going to Watkins Elementary School. You done put sidewalks everywhere else. Our children walk from Bueller, from Fairwood up to Watkins Road, to Watkins Elementary School. They have no sidewalks, they have to walk in the middle of the road. We got cars rolling up and down there. There's no street lights. The children, where are they gonna walk at? When it rain and snow, they have to duck and dodge cars and everything else trying to get to school. And for the time change, it's dark. And I can't tell me to tell the parents, to tell the children to put something on that they can see. Children is children. They get hit, first thing y'all say, well, that was an accident, we are sorry. That don't help a parent from losing their child. We would like to know about the sidewalks. We done put sidewalks all over Columbus. That's going to a school. It's going to an elementary school. And we would like to have sidewalks put over there, and for y'all to tell us what happened to the sidewalks 5 years ago. And on Coble Road, from Fairwood to Lockbourne, in front of Marion Franklin High School, we need that resurfaced because there's so many potholes in there now. You done fixed the potholes, I know, 4 times since this winter. You come up and down between there, it's just like on an obstacle course. If you come over too far, you'll be gonna hit another car, and if you hit it, I got a grandson that bust his tire. And I told him you might as well go on and fix it because by the time the city give you the money, I don't mean no harm, you'll be an old man by the time you get the money for the... Amen. Now, you can go look at them now. They haven't fixed them. If you want to look at them, go look at them. Look at those holes, those potholes in there. They come down there, they put the little glue in there, put the tar in there. Rain, it's back up. It's back up. And it's terrible. People got to go to work in the morning time. They got to duck and dodge. People is coming up and down that strip. We need that resurfaced. Diane Place, I've been living over there for 46 years. And that street got so many patches where they done tried to fix the potholes. It's going halfway across each side of the street. That need to be resurfaced. And the last one I got to ask you about is how long do a house stay in probate? Because I got you 3 good houses on Coble Road and on Fairwood that the house has been empty. I know they've been empty for 8 years. Rena, I know they've been empty for 8 years because I have the contract from the city to cut the grass. And I know they've been empty for 8 years. But every time I ask about them, they tell me it's in probate. How long do a house stay in probate? You came up Lockbourne Road, and I know 6 houses that y'all done tore down on Lockbourne Road. Why can't we get a house tore down over here? Now, those houses just sitting, the back ends is falling off, wood is on the windows, but the house is just sitting there. And we ask you about them, we sitting downtown. I have my secretary to go in there and to say, the house is in probate. The house is in probate. For what? You can't get no tax off it. And if it's been in probate that long, you know ain't nobody gonna buy it or pay for it. So why can't the city just come and tear it down?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Patterson. So I want to start the director's presentations in a moment, but I want to make sure that we get to your questions in particular. Until the last one there, they were all related to public service. As the department will discuss, We do have more money in our resurfacing budget than we have in previous years, $39 million. There's a prioritization for that. And so I don't know exactly where those roads fall within that, and we are going to need to follow up to get you that information. So is it okay if we follow up with that after the meeting tonight?
I would like for someone to come out to our meeting and explain it to. Don't send me the email and tell me to tell the people. I would like for someone to come out there and tell these people why they can't get this fixed. Where do we fall into it? Because how is the priority picked? How do you pick where you're going to do it or what? Because we are taxpayers out here too.
Absolutely. So let's actually, I want to point out two people. Councilmember Emmanuel Remy is the chair of the Public Service Committee. And then Mr. Michael, I'm going to say your last name wrong, Liggett, is here from the Department of Public Service. I'm going to go a little bit out of order, and if you could talk about how we prioritize street resurfacing so that he can get part of his answer now, and then we can make sure. I know that you've got a time clock because you've got a meeting to get to, and we have to get started with director presentations. But if you could start with that piece, and then we will follow up on getting someone to your meeting and also getting you the specific answers.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Chairwoman Brown. So, Mr. Patterson, in regards to street resurfacing, on average, the lifespan of a street, whether it be residential or arterial, is usually about between 20 to 24 years before it's fully resurfaced again. Of course, 311, I will stress probably multiple times. I've stressed since I've come into this position a month ago in any public meetings I've gone to, is one of the best ways to help we, the department, know what's happening on your street. But also it's sending out our inspectors to do visual checks of the street to see what the damage is, what the overall rating of the street is, and then of course we compile that along with other data and rank things, and then funding dependent, we put together a list and try and hit as many areas of the city as we can. With regards to the issues of potholes, as you know, we've had a very unseasonable spring and a very hard winter. When we are in the colder months, we have to do what's called a cold patch, which is basically a temporary patch, so that's why you've seen those multiple fillings. It is my understanding that the asphalt plant is up and operating, but as we've continued to have these colder temperatures, we've not been able to go out and do those hard patches, which are really going to help take care of some of those potholes. That is to the best of my knowledge. I can explain that to you. Of course, I know James has your information, and I have this down to follow up with him first thing tomorrow morning on this to make sure we're getting the answers that you need.
Thank you.
Councilmember Remy, do you have anything you want to add as chair?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Patterson, for coming in and bringing the concerns to us. Obviously, this is a top priority. We'll make sure that you can reach out to Lucy Frank or Jeff Carter or my office as your point people to make sure. I've already texted the administrator over paving to go take a look at Cobo between Fairwood and Lockbourne. I expect to have an answer back tomorrow, just at least of an assessment of it, but we'll make sure to get down there as well. I think we met early on, and I'm trying to get underneath, I'm a little bit under the weeds still, but we'll get down there and make sure that we take a ride with you so that we can see firsthand some of the concerns that you have. I got it. I'm trying to make sure everybody can hear. Can they hear okay? Okay. Anyway, so we will get back to you as soon as I have some answers. But again, feel free to reach out to Lucy's back there. I think, do you have one of your cards? We'll make sure that you're specifically connected with our office. I'll work with the director and Mr. Liggett to make sure that we're getting you the answers that you've been requesting this evening.
Yes. Like I told you, call me anytime. I got my cell phone on. I got my cell phone on me all the time.
Absolutely.
Just call me.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good luck with your meeting. Next, I would like to turn it over to Mr. Joe Lombardi, the Director of the Department of Finance and Management, to give us a quick overview from the bird's eye level of the Finance Department.
Thank you, Councilmember Brown, and I want to thank all the council members that are here this evening. Also want to thank Mayor Ginther for his leadership, and to you, the community, for taking time out tonight to come out and listen to the city speak about its 2018 capital improvement budget. I also want to thank my colleagues that are here this evening from the departments who will give you more specifics about their budgets. I want to thank my staff, Rob Newman and Kyle Seaver, who do all the hard work for me and crunch all the numbers, and Stu Stahl, who makes the boards that you see behind me. My role in this process is to facilitate the mayor's priorities for a capital budget, along with working with city council to facilitate a budget that reflects the mayor's priorities. So my role is to make sure that those groups coordinate with one another and discuss the priorities for the community. Just a quick overview of the difference between a capital improvement budget and a capital improvement plan. The capital improvement budget is a one-year snapshot of what the city intends to do as far as is related to capital projects, and those include, as Mr. Patterson said, sidewalks, resurfacing, utility infrastructure, fire stations, police substations, fire apparatuses, affordable housing. So that is the budget. It is a one-year snapshot that will go in front of council shortly, which will then vote on that, and that is an approved ordinance. A capital improvement plan is just that. It's a plan. It's a 6-year plan of our projects going forward into 2023, I believe. That is usually approved as a resolution. So it's just a plan of what we plan to do in the next 6 years, 5 plus the 1 year of the capital improvement budget. So it'll be 18 all the way out to 23. So that is a quick and dirty, what's the difference between a capital improvement budget and a capital improvement plan. We will work with our city auditor at some time this year once we've passed a proposed budget that we've proposed to city council. And we'll work with our city auditor then to size what we call size up a bond package. We'll see exactly what kind of funding we currently have, and then we'll decide how much new money we would need to ask for in a bond sale. That will come later this year. The mayor's proposed budget does reflect his priorities. That total budget, when you include everyone, every department, and all funding, is over $1 billion. That includes 720, go Bucks, $720 million worth of new funding and $293 million in carryover funding. And that carryover funding is, majority of it's from last year's bond sale. We had a late bond sale last year, so a lot of those proceeds are still in the department's budget. We had that done in like October or November of last year. So obviously doing construction during the winter time is not easy, so that money carries over into the next budget year. Over half of this budget is related to public utilities. Just so, how do we pay for these projects? In 1956, the community voted to allow for 25% of your money goes into a fund called the Special Income Tax Fund, and that money is used to pay the debt service for all the bonds that we sell. That does not include public utilities. Public utilities is obviously your water and sewer bills. That is what's used to pay for the debt for water and sewers. Again, over half of that this year, as in most years, it's 55% is dedicated to public utilities. And that includes water, stormwater, sewer, and electricity. If you would like to see a copy of the budget, you can go to www.city.gov columbus.gov/capital, and the entire budget is there for you on our website. I won't get into any specifics. That will be, my colleagues will talk more specifically about what goes into their budgets and what specific projects they have for 2018. Once again, I thank you for taking your time out this evening to come and listen to us. And again, I want to thank City Council for the opportunity to talk in front of the community here on the South Side. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Director Lombardi. Are there questions from my colleagues for Director Lombardi? All right, then we will move to the Assistant Director of the Department of Public Utilities, Mr. John Lee.
Good evening, everyone. As Director Lombardi said, half of the budget, the capital budget, is for public utilities. And I'm sure all of you use our services every single day: water, sewer. You go outside, you see the street lights on at night. You see the rainwater going down through the storm sewer. So we are all over the city. We're serving 1.2 million customers in the greater Columbus area. So most of our infrastructure is underground, and you may have seen us, or contractors in your neighborhood, repairing water lines, upgrading sewer lines, installing street lights. So obviously our goals, I just wanted to run over that with you. You know, we're trying to always maintain and provide you with the highest quality water. That's one of our chief initiatives. We have to upgrade this infrastructure. It costs a lot of money to upgrade infrastructure, and a lot of the everything has to come out of the plant. We have to produce the water, and then all the wastewater has to go down to the plant and be treated. And that's what I want to focus in on tonight, is a little bit about the plant projects. In this area on the south side, you have two wastewater treatment plants, as you know, Jackson Pike, which is right down the road, and then further down the road you have Southerly. And then you take Southerly east and you find Parsons Avenue Water Plant. So I'm sure you're all familiar with that infrastructure. And when we look at the 2018 budget in particular, we have a lot of plant work going on. And I have information on the out years all the way out through 2023 of all the projects we have planned. We do have streetlight projects in your area. We do have stormwater improvement projects. We do have water line work in your neighborhoods. And so I can go over some of those with you. But when we just look at 2018, we have $74 million dedicated in spending in this area. And when you look at that 74 million, 64 million of it is just dedicated to the plant upgrades. So, over time, as with anything, you have to maintain, your infrastructure, the capacity. We had to expand the capacity of the plants as the city grows. New treatment processes, particularly for water, come online. So I just wanted to dive in a little bit, give you a couple examples of some projects that we have going on and what we're doing. One of the things that in the past, particularly with wastewater, whenever wastewater is treated, we used to incinerate a lot of that. We used to burn it, and probably about 64% of that was incinerated or sent to the landfill. So we're trying to make a shift to reuse that in a more green way. And so since 2010, we've made a shift to more 86% of the biosolids that are produced by the plants are now being reused. So that's good for the earth. It's good for farmers' fields, things of that nature. So down at Jackson Pike, we have a project. It's a construction project. It's going to be about $15 million. What we're doing there is we're increasing the capacity to store some of these biosolids. And so there's going to be some pumping stations that are going to be part of that project, and some storage tanks and a new load-out facility. And what will happen is some trucks will come in, contracted trucks will come in, they'll pick up some of these biosolids, and they will, a lot of times they'll take them, and farmers will take them, and they'll spread them on their fields and things like that. So reusing that rather than going out and putting it in the landfill and just making the landfill fill up. Down at Southerly, we have another project, another green-related project. It's a $22 million project where what we're doing down there is the process of treatment requires what they call digestion, and what this is going to do is use some microorganisms to break down that matter, that organic matter, and then there's going to be a byproduct of biogas that comes off of that. We're going to try and harness that biogas and turn it into electricity. So another reuse, another green initiative there. And so we estimate that we could potentially power a good portion of the plant with that biogas. So, and then finally, I wanted to talk a little bit about water down at Parsons Avenue. That plant came online in 1983, and it's a groundwater plant, so the source water for that comes from the ground. There's a big well field out there. We draw it up from the groundwater, then we treat it. We have two other water plants up Hapcremene. You may have seen that off Morse Road, and then we have one on Dublin Road. Those serve more of the northern to middle area of the city. So Parsons is one of our smaller plants, and so it's that time to upgrade that. So we're going to we've been making some investment down there. That project's actually ongoing right now, but we're going to continue to funnel dollars to that throughout 2018. And so some of the things that we're doing is electrical upgrades, and we're upgrading the filters and the basins and putting in a new clear well. So, these are very large dollar projects. A lot of times at our plants, what we do is we try and do small capital projects to give contractors opportunities to get in there and do some of the smaller work, HVAC improvements, some electrical improvements, roofing replacements. Got a lot of roof jobs coming up, again, just because of the aging infrastructure. So that's really what's going on down here in the south area. Again, I'm happy to talk with you about some of the projects we have in the out years, like the street lighting and stormwater situations. If you have any concerns in your neighborhood about water lines that are breaking, or you're seeing water, you're seeing storm sewers that are not, they're not taking the storm water down, they're backed up, or if you see street lights out, you can always contact 311, and I have some emergency contact information as well that I can share with you. So thank you, and look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lee. And I want to, as we're hearing the presentations from the departments, I want to make sure I'm highlighting the corresponding council chair. Councilmember Michael Stinziano is the chair for the Department of Public Utilities. Are there any questions for my colleagues? Okay. Actually, if you could explain, you mentioned new street lighting, and that you're happy to take questions on that individually, but could you give us just the quick overview of what kind of resident engagement is involved when the department makes those decisions? Because again, I know we're a large city and have quite a bit of demand.
Sure. For our street lighting program, we actually have a service area that the Division of Power serves. So I have a service area map that we can look at to see if your area is in that service area. If you're wondering, why can't I get any street lights out here? And so we've got various avenues. We have what we have is a prioritization plan, and so we look at various variables whenever we determine where to put street lights. We look at crime. We look at pedestrian incidents, traffic, relation to schools, things like that, to try to prioritize things. We do have a limited amount of funding. Actually, that is, the Director Lombardi did mention that our dollars are funded from user fees, which is the vast majority, but we do get a small portion from the general fund for streetlights, and so we try and allocate that the best we can. But there also is an assessment process that residents can go through along their streets, where they can submit a petition, and things would go through a course outlined, and I can go over that with you as far as the possibility of that avenue for streetlights.
Okay. We'll wait till question and answer. Thank you so much, Mr. Lee. Next, I'd like to introduce Mr. Michael Liggett, who actually already did get a chance to speak, but formally he's the Community Relations Coordinator for the Department of Public Service. Thank you, sir, for being here.
Awesome. Thank you, Chairwoman Brown, President Hardin, President Pro Tem Cinziano, members of council. Again, my name is Michael Liggett. I am the Community Relations Coordinator with the City of Columbus Department of Public Service, appearing on behalf of Jennifer Gallagher. Again, I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to come out and speak briefly about our department's proposed 2018 capital budget. Our proposed new funding capital budget of $160 million will invest in roadways, sidewalks, bikeways, bridges, and other projects that will improve the quality of life in our neighborhoods, making them safer for motorists, pedestrians, and bicyclists. Of course, the centerpiece of this year's budget is the historic dedication of $39 million for the city's resurfacing program. This record amount, which is an 18% increase as compared to the previous year, will greatly benefit the residents, businesses, and visitors to America's Opportunity City. Of that $39 million, $29.4 million will go to resurface more than 200 streets across the city of Columbus. With that, over $2 million dedicated to residential and arterial streets right here in our South Side communities. $1.5 million will improve dozens of miles of alleyways. Another $2 million for the resurfacing program will provide for citywide curb ramps, and nearly $1.3 million will be for urban paving projects, which are joint resurfacing projects in collaboration with ODOT. Included in our 2018 capital improvement budget are other major type roadway improvements happening in the south quadrant of Columbus. This includes $750,000 for 3 roadway improvement projects for the I-70-71 in the near south, $250,000 for bridge rehabilitation on Parsons Road under the railroad retaining walls in the far south, $92,000 for the Central Avenue, Harrisburg Pike, and Mound Street intersection improvement, $75,000 for bikeway development at Refugee Road over the Big Walnut Creek shared use path. And finally, in this year's budget, we have $2.5 million dedicated for the design of sidewalks that will benefit our school children, including students right here in the South Side at Lincoln Park Elementary and Livingston Elementary. So again, I would like to thank you all, members of council, for the opportunity to present these items to you and to our residents and neighbors in the South Side communities. And at this time, we'll take any questions or comments you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Liggett. And as we said already, the Department of Public Service, the committee chair on council is Councilmember Emmanuel Rini. Are there questions from my colleagues for Mr. Liggett? Okay. We will move on to the Department of Public Safety, Deputy Director Kate Pisciotti.
Good evening, Council Chair Brown, Council President Hardin, Council President Pro Tem Stenziano, and other council members. The Public Safety Department's proposed 2018 capital improvements budget is focused on the mayor's priorities of protecting Columbus's neighborhoods by building new police and fire facilities, purchasing fire apparatus, and upgrading radio communications. The 2018 Public Safety Capital Budget proposes $26.6 million in new funding. And the funding can be broken down into 4 general areas: new police and fire facilities, fire apparatus replacements, communication and technology improvements, and safety facilities renovations. The department proposes a total of $7.5 million in new funding for the purchase of fire apparatus. In 2008, a vehicle replacement standard was adopted, and the Department of Public Safety has made significant strides in replacing out-of-life cycle vehicle units outside the scope of the replacement standard. To date, the Division of Fire has all frontline vehicles within the replacement standard adopted by the city, and is very close to having all units within that standard. This is a programmatic and marked improvement in the fleet for the division, resulting in more reliable and newer equipment on the street, ensuring optimum response times for the division. With this funding, the division will procure 1 ladder platform, 1 ladder tiller, and 5 engines and medics. Excuse me. The capital budget proposes $3 million for police and fire facilities renovations. While considerable investment has been made in new facilities over the past years, there remains a significant need to upgrade parking lots, generators and windows, repair roofs, and general facility improvements. The capital budget also proposes $2.5 million to upgrade the existing 911 system, $500,000 for the annual replacement of police and fire radios, and $1 million each for a gunfire detection system and a real-time crime center. The City of Columbus last upgraded the 911 system in 2013. The project in 2013 upgraded the existing Power 911 system, which provides the services for the City of Columbus, and made the system ready for next-gen 911 and texting to 911. However, it's been 5 years since this upgrade and system refresh is needed to keep the equipment at peak performance. We have $500,000 for radios, which is an annual expense that keeps police and fire radios in the best conditions possible. The Division of Police has approximately 4,000 of these radios. Fire has 2,200. In the year 2017-2018, approximately 2,700 of these radios will be 15 to 18 years old and need replaced. The gunfire detection system will enable police to receive real-time alerts of gunfire that and no longer be totally dependent upon 911 for notification. The system will be used as an additional component of the mayor's comprehensive neighborhood safety strategy. The capital budget commitment will allow for the city to begin the bidding process and work with Columbus Police and data to determine where the technology will be located. $1 million is set aside in this budget to start a plan for a real-time crime center, which is a centralized technology center with the purpose of giving patrol officers and detectives instant information to help identify patterns and stop emerging crime. Finally, $1 million is included in the budget for land and design work for a driving track for the Division of Police. The division is in need of a track where recruits and officers can be trained in various driving techniques used by the Division of Police. The division currently does not own a facility to better train recruits and keep current officers updated on the driving techniques of the division. I appreciate your time tonight. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you so much, Deputy Director Pisciotti. The chair of the Public Safety Committee for Council is Councilmember Mitch Brown. Are there any questions from my colleagues for Deputy Director Pisciotti?
I just want to remind folks, the reason we're not asking questions is because we were trying to get through the presentations, and we're here to hear from you guys. So it's not that we are not asking questions. We've been really engaged, but we are actually trying to keep things moving so that we can hear from you. So, sorry, Chair.
No, thank you for the reminder. Next, we will hear, and we have 2 departments left to go, and we hope that the information is helping to inform your own questions. Yeah. Our next department is the Department of Development. We have Assistant Director Bill Webster.
Thank you, Chairperson Brown, President Hardin, members of council. The Development Department uses capital funding to support our mission and programs by leveraging private investments to create jobs and grow neighborhoods. Projects funded through our CIB include developing affordable housing within our neighborhoods, public-private partnerships to encourage commercial growth, demolition of vacant and abandoned housing, residential renovation and preservation, and then construction of roadway infrastructure that supports our development projects. Our 2018 capital improvements budget request is $57.1 million. This includes $13,950,000 for community development initiatives and $43 million for economic development and job creation projects. For our community development initiatives, we are proposing the following. $5 million for the Housing Alliance to leverage funding for programs and projects addressing affordable housing throughout Columbus. $3.5 million to support our vacant and abandoned properties efforts. Funds will be used for demolition of structures, including environmental and asbestos testing and abatements, demolition, post-demolition lot restoration, and similar type services. Last year, we demolished 299 vacant structures, and since 2012, we have demolished 945 structures. We are also looking to invest $2 million in our housing preservation program to increase the local supply of decent, safe, and sanitary housing and decrease the number of vacant properties within our neighborhoods. Last year, we rehabbed and or repaired more than 1,000 homes throughout neighborhoods in our city. We're also investing $800,000 in right-of-way improvements to support our smaller residential projects. And then, of course, $350,000 for emergency shelter repair to assist in the repair of shelters for items, but not limited to ADA bathroom improvements, roof replacements, repairs to kitchens, bathrooms, and dormitory areas. With regards to our economic development and job creation activities, we are proposing $43 million. The lion's share of that, $27 million, will be to complete infrastructure improvements supporting the Ohio Health Project. This funding is leveraging private investment of $89 million and adding 1,311 jobs to our economy. We also want to propose $4 million for our public-private partnership program, or what we call the 3P program. This program is a cross-departmental program designed to fund, manage, and coordinate infrastructure investment projects supporting job creation and leveraging private investments. In addition, we would like to propose $250,000 for our economic and community development activities. These are smaller type commercial projects throughout our neighborhoods that help to support our entrepreneurship type activities. And then finally, the Development Department coordinates the city's urban infrastructure recovery program as well as our neighborhood commercial revitalization funding. Altogether, we are proposing $9.5 million for these programs. Now, these are also cross-departmental programs where we provide funding to places like service, utilities, et cetera, for projects. But public service, we're looking to invest approximately $3 million for improvements within 13 neighborhoods. These are projects such as sidewalks. These will be bikeways, curbs, ramps, traffic calming projects. With recreation and parks, Paul Rossi may speak more about this, but we'll be looking to provide them funding for park enhancements, and as well as to our power division for projects, street lighting, and things that I have talked about earlier in the evening. This concludes our budget proposal. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you so much, Assistant Director Webster. Councilmember Jiza Page is chair for the committees that fall under the Department of Development. There are a couple. Housing and Economic Development and Small Business, right? Are there any questions from my colleagues for Mr. Webster? I have one thing that I realized the final of Mr. Patterson's questions was about the VAT initiative. And so if you could make sure, if it's okay with Chair Page, that I believe it would be Hannah in the department could communicate back to him about those specific properties he's concerned about.
Yes, I'd be happy to do that.
Okay, thank you. And finally, we have Deputy Director of Recreation and Parks. That is Paul Rakowski.
Thank you, Chair Brown, President Hardin, President Pro Tem Stinziano, and thanks to all of you for coming out tonight and to one of our beautiful community centers here. And I wanted to quickly thank Brianna Ross and her team for hosting us here tonight at the center. The Rec and Parks budget is a total of $69.3 million that we're proposing this year, $53 million in new funding, and then about $16 million in that carryover cash funding that others have talked about today here at the table. We have large categories of spending that we have in our capital budget, and then from that point we break them down into neighborhood-specific projects, but park and playground renovation and park acquisition money, funds for swimming facility improvements, hard surface renovations, as you can imagine, throughout our entire system with all of the walking paths that we have and sports courts that we have throughout all of our parks, as well as parking lots that we have to have funds set aside to take care of keeping those in good shape. facility renovations for our community centers, like the center that we're all in today, and roof replacement program for all of our centers and buildings. We also do all the bikeways and along the greenways that you've heard about, all the bike trails that are not done by the Public Service Department. And then again, we, as Mr. Webster spoke to, we have urban infrastructure recovery funding dollars that are in our budget as well, that we use for projects that fall within those specific areas that have been delineated under that program. So we do lots of things and lots of big pots of money to take care of doing those, but then we do break those out. So in this area, in the Green Lawn Frank Road, we have a little over 200,000 that we're at the Berliner Sports Complex, one of our very large, one of the largest in the whole region, if not the United States, in regards to softball that we have. So some security lighting there that's going to be green lighting, so it's going to have solar panels that are going to power that lighting, that security lighting. In the near south, we have some trail projects along Phoebus Avenue, a connector that's going to connect to the Alum Creek Trail. At Barrick Community Center, we're going to get to do a lobby renovation. We're doing lobby renovations across our entire system on a rotational basis. So we're going to get a new lobby there at Barrick. There's a new loop walk going in at Driving Park. Those who live in the Fairwood Park area have probably seen that we've redone that entire park. The last two pieces, we've added shelters and walkways there as well. The last two pieces that we have there are a new skate park and a pump track that we're going to be designing and put under construction and have installed this year. We have Schiller Park, our pond at Schiller Park. We're also going through all of our ponds at the parks. You've probably read about issues that we were having during the summer with algae and the like in our ponds, so put a lot of aeration systems in those ponds to try and keep that algae down. So we're going to be doing some improvements at Schiller Park. And then in the far south, we have a lot of asphalt and concrete improvements. Again, we're doing those throughout the system. Madison Mills Playground is going to be replaced at Madison Mills. And then right here at Marion Franklin Park, the sports courts are going to get a lot of attention over the summer. We're going to do refurbishing and new overlay and color coding of all the tennis courts with new posts, doing the existing basketball courts. And I know what's popular, and it's become very popular in all of our centers, is we're going to install a dedicated pickleball court outside here in the tennis practice area. And then again, there's the existing children's play area. We're going to resurface and color code that with new goals. Two other projects, the Stone Ridge Playground will be replaced this year. And then the big project that we have down in the area, which is the replacement of the Indian Mound Recreation Center. So we're going to replace the entire center. We're going to leave the gym. We're building on to that. And then also some regrading and work with stormwater retention in the park. So that's an $8 million project that we're very excited. It's getting ready to go out for bid for construction. And with that, I'll stop my comments and take any questions and then get ready to listen to all the good things that you have to say. I also have maps of the projects I talked about tonight, and then also a handout that lists all of those projects, and then my cards are up here as well. So if something I didn't get to and you want to send me an email or talk to me after tonight, you can grab one of my cards as well.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rakowski. And I am the chair of the Recreation and Parks Department Committee for the city, for council, excuse me. Okay, so that concludes the departmental presentation portion, and we will now move on to comments from you all. So we have speaker slips here. Again, if you'd like to fill out a speaker slip, please see Miss Nancy Sully in the back, and she can get you all set up. Could Miss Sandra Brown please approach the microphone? If you could use the microphone, this is on CTV, so it's helpful. And yeah. Sorry.
It's a
Surprise.
public meeting.
Yeah, it's a public meeting, so we like to be able to record it. And I also want to thank, I see a lot of Southside leaders here, but specifically Area Commission members, and you all do a lot of work on a regular basis, daily, weekly basis, and it's often thankless work. So we really appreciate your daily efforts and being here too. Ms. Brown, you have 3 minutes,
Yes.
and go
My
ahead.
concern is, I'm with the Deschler Park Association, but my concern is, I've been to these meetings before, and there was one at the Reeve Avenue Center last summer I attended, and spoke to a number of people concerning different issues I felt was important to my community. Everyone there says, well, give me your email and I will get back with you. I did that. My daughter was there. She did the same thing. Never heard from anyone, not one person. One lady in particular said, well, I'm new, but I definitely will get back with you and find out your information. So I'm wondering if this is going to be another event like that. And also another concern I have, with the money, he says housing and so forth, affordable housing, where they're always talking about affordable housing, but when we go apply, well, I've tried to apply for grants. Every time I try to apply for a grant within the city, by the time, sometimes they never get back, and then you keep bugging and bugging. Somewhere along the line, you find out, well, the person is no longer there, but no one ever contacts you. Also, when you ask for a grant or question a grant, not in your area, I don't think there's ever been one within our area, whereas I know people who live in other areas have gotten grants to do, from the city, to do certain repairs. And they're saying they want affordable housing, but if you're not giving anything to help the people within the community provide affordable housing, it's null and void. And another thing I have, if we aren't getting it, my taxes are going up, but the property values in our area are going down. And you're not going to be able to get anyone to move into the area if you can't fix up the area. Next to me is an abandoned house. It's been there for years. People have called on it, I've called on it, but nothing seems to be done. And it appears to me within my area that no one's listening. I can go down Lockbourne or maybe Whittier. When you get to the German Village area, you see the repairs coming up Whittier. But when they get to our area, that seems to stop. And anytime you question, or if you find someone to question, they give you an answer, but you never hear anything from them, or you never receive any information. And that's a big concern with me because no one, our children are in the area. Sure, you're doing parks and fixing them up, but what's the point of having a park or something if they don't have a decent place to live?
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for your honest feedback and critique. So first of all, sorry, I'm going to just pause this so it doesn't annoyingly buzz. So first of all, the situation of you not getting follow-up just absolutely shouldn't happen. I don't know the circumstances, but it absolutely shouldn't happen. And one thing that on our Saturday hearing, the council president suggested, which we are going to do for every hearing, is we have asked that departments follow up and copy our council team so that council members stay apprised of what follow-up you get, so that we ensure that it happens. Yes. Okay. Do you mean affordable housing grants? So housing related. So I just, and honestly, I'm going to give you my email address so that if you don't have follow-up, you can email me directly. I am going to have a baby like any second, so I may be on I'll give you my email address and you just email me if you don't get follow-up. I'm ecbrown@columbus.gov. Just to make sure I heard your point on that, and we want to make sure you get follow-up. But on the affordable housing piece, Mr. Webster, if you could explain, first and foremost, we do have something that Councilmember Page has championed, and please chime in, Chair Page, if you'd like. We have allocated $5 million for specifically affordable housing to the Affordable Housing Alliance, and this is a new initiative. And Mr. Webster, if you could talk a bit about what that $5 million will go towards, and then I know that you're also asking about repairs, but if we could start with that.
With regards to the Affordable Housing Alliance of Central Ohio was formed in 2015. It's a nonprofit group that represents a full spectrum of affordable housing opportunities. This is a new endeavor for us. Right now, we are working with them to put together exactly what type of program we think best meets the needs of our residents. So I apologize, I'm not able to speak to the details as to what the program is going to offer, but we are in discussions. We're serious about investing in them, which is why we've put the money in place, and we want to get this money out to the residents. I too am concerned about the lack of follow-up. I don't know the particulars of what's taking place there, but with regards to our housing grants, we have emergency repair programs, we have roof repair programs, we have home modification programs. We have a slew of programs that are designed specifically for the various types of issues that our residents are coming across. Again, I don't know specifically what has taken place, but I would welcome the opportunity to be able to get you in contact with our Deputy Director of Community Development so we can make sure that you have all the information you need, as well as getting all the feedback that you should be getting from our department.
And Councilmember Page or Chair Page?
Thank you. And just to follow up with the department, as he was saying, that there are some grant programs that are not area specific, so they are across the city, but they may be specific to a particular issue with your house, whether it's your roof or other exterior things. But there are certain grants that are neighborhood specific, so that information is definitely correct. But what we will do is I will promise to speak with you at the end of this meeting and get your contact information and talk with you just through some of the issues that you have and what we can do. And another thing that is through the capital budget is I have a Learning Skills Lifting Neighborhoods grant program. And this is focused on nonprofit organizations that are working with either youth or returning citizens to our community. And if they're utilizing either youth or, again, returning citizens to fix up a house in the community, there will be grant funds available to either appropriate the house or to buy materials to fix up that property. And that's something that we can look into further if you may be eligible for that funding.
Okay. Thank you so much, Councilmember. Next, I'd like to invite Miss Maudie Grace. And a reminder, you know the drill, but 3 minutes.
Good afternoon, councilmen, officers of whatever. I've already talked to my man up there. He's gonna hook me up, right? Okay. The size of our civic association is a concern to us because I'm the only representative for the Deschler Park Civic Association, and it's hard for me to cover everyone that calls me about a concern for my area. So I would like to find out who I need to talk to about getting a second commissioner for Deschler Civic. Electric poles. I think I've talked to the city council person about the electrical poles and the wiring that go across the driveways, because when I try to have work done on my home, the trucks cannot get up in the driveway because the wires are too low. The other issue, we have semis coming down a neighborhood street, and just like the other gentleman was talking about, our streets are torn up because of the semis going up and down Fairwood Avenue, and it's a residential area, so I don't understand why we can't get something done about the big semis going up and down that street, tearing up the streets. I just had sidewalks put in, I think it was last year, year before. The traffic with those big trucks are so large and so bad that the people are riding the bikes on the sidewalks. We need signs saying no riding bikes on the sidewalk. Code enforcement, I've talked to them about the school system because we have 2 old schools. One is closed, one has become a transportation hub, and I've reported them for the trash and all of that. I was told by one of the code people that they can't write tickets on other agencies. If you could write it on me, you should be able to write it on them. Sandra is one of my members. I specifically told her about a program that the city had that's supposed to help people that rent their property fix it up. It was some kind of good neighbor agreement. She came back and told me the same thing she just told you all. She couldn't get any information. Can't see what this. Oh, home. I'm out of time.
You can finish your thought,
okay.
Please.
The bank, land bank, why do they make it so hard for people, regular people, to buy those homes rather than renting, giving them all to rental companies? We'd like to see people that want to buy that property in there and fix that property up rather than having it rented out.
Great, thank you so much. So your first question about your civic, we will, James, if you could make sure the Department of Neighborhoods has that feedback so that we can get in touch with you about that process. Councilmember Stinziano chairs Department of Neighborhoods Committee, so we'll get back to you about that. And then some of the service-related issues, Councilman Barimi, you said you've spoken, but
yeah, I'm on it. I got your I got your list, and I'm on it. You know that.
And then on the development department related issues, Chair Page or Mr. Webster can speak to that now, and also or also facilitate follow-up. Yeah.
Thank you. With regards to code enforcement, I'd like to better understand. I lost a little bit of what you were referring to, so perhaps if we can talk and I can better understand that, I can engage our code enforcement folks to at least get the conversation going. With regards to the land bank, we too prefer to sell those properties to folks that are going to live in them, own them. That is always our preference, home ownership. We do realize that in certain situations, we've gone with a rental type scenario, but I will tell you that our preference by and large as a program is home ownership, and that is actually what we strive to do when we are screening people. As it relates to the screening process, unfortunately, I know sometimes it can be lengthy, but more often than not, we choose to go with the lengthy vetting process just to make sure that we're taking every precaution in the world to make sure that we're putting that property back into productive use with the right folks that can achieve that goal.
Okay, thank you. Next, Ms. Robin Watson.
Good evening, Council President Harden, Chairwoman Brown, and members of councils, and thank you for coming this evening and speaking on behalf of the directors as well. I am Robin Watson. I chair the Far South Columbus Area Commission. Also, I am president of the Scioto Southland Civic Association. As Mr. Patterson spoke previously, and he was pretty eloquent regarding the concerns about his area, I'll just bring out a few about the Scioto Southland area. Last time I had 3 minutes to speak, I ran out, so I will go through everything and circle back around. We will start with the Russell Leach subdivision. This is a subdivision that consists of 3 streets. It has been in our area since the 70s and without one street light. I'm not understanding the area about streetlights and how that all works because it's surrounded with other subdivisions that do have streetlights. Also, in the Southern Pines a few years ago, there was a project in which all of our curbs and some of our sidewalks were replaced in areas where they were damaged, except for an area on Corbin Road, where it's just a small strip of road. It was just kind of left off and the curbs are still broken. First, and also lastly, our Parsons Avenue, the area from the bridge, just north of Deering, down to, I would say, Obetz Road, has gone from a public service issue to probably a public safety issue. Over the years, it is increasingly getting worse. And that is an issue also. So those are my thoughts here, if there's any comments.
Great, thank you. So these are all, could you explain what exactly the safety issue is?
Well, the fact that the roads are really in bad shape. When you try to drive down, you're not sure if your car has gone out of alignment or you're just driving on Parsons Avenue. Okay. It's that unsteady. Okay.
So, Councilmember Remy, I don't know if there's anything you want to add other than it sounds like we need to check on where this falls into the resurfacing plan. Again, we have $39 million for resurfacing. We want to get to everything that needs it. Do you have anything you want to add?
No, I'll just, but I'll get with you afterwards. I want to get some clarification on a couple of things.
I look forward to speaking to you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. The other thing is I was interested in the comment about the public safety hub that there is funding for.
Crime Center?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Could you elaborate a little bit more on that? Because this is the first time I've ever heard of that.
Yes, it is new. And does Councilmember Brown or Deputy Director Pashadi want to speak to it?
Do you want to finish your time?
Well, we'll let the Deputy Director go first, and I'll elaborate on the concerns associated with the real-time crime center that we think is very, very important for our public safety forces. As you heard Deputy Director Shadi say, part of the issue is bringing all of the different elements together. We currently have 311 and 911 in one spot. We have different information about cameras in another spot. What we're going to look at is use technology whereby when an event takes place, along with the gunshot detection capabilities, when something happens, we can provide that information immediately to the officers responding to that circumstance so they can be able to be more keenly aware of what they're going to be confronted with. It's a relatively new concept, but we think it's something that we want to take a stern, hard look at.
This is a capital improvements budget, talking about public safety, which is the budget when we talk about getting officers on the street and that sort of thing. Which one is that?
And I should have included that in my little preamble. The capital budget is distinct from the operating budget. And so each year, closer to the beginning of the year, we pass the operating budget, which is mostly a personnel budget. About 2/3 of it is personnel. So that is officers, and we did fund additional recruit classes in the budget this year. Was it 50? Yes. 50 more officers this year between council and mayor allocations. But that also funds your code enforcement officers and your public health workers and a lot of your trash, refuse drivers, all of that. The capital budget represents physical investments, and we finance that through bond sales, through those two versions. One is by the rates you pay on your water and sewer, and that's the $557 million that goes through utilities, and then one is that 0.25%, 25% of income taxes that goes to allowing us to do the bond sale for most of the rest of what we talked about that makes up that full $1 billion package.
Okay.
So that's the distinction, and because capital investments really are about physical things you can see in your neighborhoods, that's one of the reasons we wanted to try to do the hearings in this format, so that people could understand how that looks in their area.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you so much. What? Yeah.
I want to actually get over to Marion Franklin's meeting that they're having right now around the corner. So I just wanted to say before I step out that we're happy to be down here to talk about issues, talk about really a capital budget that invests in our neighborhoods. Budgets, you should be able to read it and understand what our values are: streets, sidewalks, community. We believe that this budget does that. But budgets are living documents. Our engagement as council members is about hearing from the public, hearing from you, and then being responsive to those needs. And so that's what this process is. And so I hope that throughout the public comment and your engagement with the council members, that you get that engagement, and that you hear, you ask for things that we need to work on in the future, in future budgets, and that we will have those relationships. And then to Chair Brown's point, we're going to ask one member, our Southside representative from our community affairs team, to be the coordinator of all the questions that we get this evening from all the speakers, and run point in not just getting the information back to you, but sharing it with the council members to know that your comments are being responded to. You might not always like all of our comments that we give back, but you will get a comment back. And that is our promise, that we will get information back to folks when they ask. And so we're very grateful that you came out this evening. Like I said, I think this is a really good budget, and hope that you're able to really peruse through it and find out what pieces are really pertinent to this community. But we first wanted to come down and hear you before we took a vote on it. So thank you.
Thank you, Council President. And then on the Parsons Avenue, the Southern Pines, and the subdivision, Mr. Liggett, if you could follow up on whether those pieces are in our resurfacing, that would be great. Thank you. And Mr. Jim Kuster, or Custer, is next. Hi, I'm sorry if I said your name wrong. Welcome.
Hello, my name's Jim Keister. I live in the Millbrook subdivision. I've only lived in the south end of Columbus for about the last 40 years, and you all ought to be ashamed of yourselves. Nobody seems to be able to tell the truth. 20 years ago, I think we had a meeting in this same place that says, you pass this levy for streets and gutters and we'll have Moeller Road taken care of. Well, gee, guess what? Last year, we got sidewalks on Moeller Road and ditches. Oh, but they're rain gardens. No, in Clintonville, the rain gardens. In the south end, they're ditches. Now, half of Moeller Road, you can run the water through. The other half, you can't even park in front of your own home because it's nothing but a ditch. And then, where does the water run? Why, it runs right down the street to a mosquito farm. You want a mosquito farm in your neighborhood? We got the biggest one around. And then, you know, we were supposed to get our street surfaced, but, we ran out of money. So maybe Moeller Road will be surfaced, give it another 5-10 years, no problem. And last but not least, somebody brought up about the land bank. It's a joke. I will never apply for another house as long as I live. The only people that they're interested in selling those houses to are contractors and rental. They don't give a darn about young couples. They don't give a darn about hobby people. They don't give a darn nothing. And they're slower than all get out. They must get paid by the hour. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Do you have a sheet on whether Moeller Road is either in the CIB or the CIP? If you don't, it would be great to get that back to.
As it stands, that is not on my current list, but I have that down to check with our head of resurfacing, and I will do that as soon as possible to make sure when Moeller Road is due. And per the comment, if it was supposed to be done 5 years ago and wasn't, why did that happen? And why wasn't it put on the following year's resurfacing list?
Great. Are we able to tell whether it's in resurfacing for the CIP, or does that come annually?
That I'm not sure of, but I will check with.
If we do resurfacing annually or in the CIP?
I think normally what public service will do is put a sum in there, and they have their own list that includes. I don't think they spell out every road in the CIP, just because it would end up being 3 telephone books big, but certainly public service can provide that.
Okay. We will follow up with you, sir, and I do hear your frustration. On the land bank, I am sorry to hear that has been your experience. I don't know if the department or anyone else wants to add something. I will tell you in my experience with the department, way back before I was around, they had different protocol for when how they sold land bank properties, and had to change it because too many were sold and then not actually rehabbed. So I understand that it sounds like that is a real headache and has frustrated you and disillusioned you from the process. I don't have a great answer for that, but I do know that the priority for the department is that when they sell it, the process can be a little complicated because when they sell it, they want to make sure that it's rehabbed and it doesn't stay in the condition that it was sold in, because that's the goal of the program.
Somebody ought to do a little research in the last 100 houses that are sold and see how many were sold to individuals. Just a little study will take care of it. And I understand where you're coming from about selling a house to somebody that can't finish it, because it happens in life. But you don't have to be so hard-nosed that everything's going to be my way or the highway. That's my only problem.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have Brian Scarpino.
Thank you, distinguished panel. My name is Brian Scarpino. I'm with the Livingston Avenue Area Commission. I've been on the Area Commission for coming up on 10 years now, and there's been a perennial problem that we cannot seem to figure out. I'm not sure if this is the right venue for this, but we have been trying to get garbage receptacles and recycling receptacles for pedestrians on Livingston Avenue for as long as I've been on the Area Commission. And just recently, the Area Commission filed a 311 complaint about overflowing garbage receptacles, and we're having a really hard time figuring out who owns the garbage receptacles. Nationwide Children's Hospital says they don't own them. CODA says they don't own them. The city says we don't own any of them. Which department owns those? How do we get more of those and make sure that they're serviced?
Member?
Ryan, I'll just email that to me specifically, and we'll look into that. I'll try to pin down between Nationwide and that. I mean, one of the issues is just what you demonstrated, that, if we were to put up garbage cans around town, we would need somebody to service it. Obviously, we're not living up to expectations, or somebody's not living up to expectations on Livingston Avenue. But certainly, we'll figure out who's responsible. I'll be glad.
Confusing.
I'll be glad to look into that.
Yeah, it's definitely a patchwork. But is that a public service or public utilities matter? Is that service?
It would be public service. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and maybe there's room in the capital budget to add more, because they do get emptied occasionally, but regularly they're overflowing. And the question of adding more is always, everybody says, well, in the short north, that's the business association that does that, or downtown, it's the special improvement district. We have some. We would like more. We have a very active bus line, vibrant pedestrian population there, and my home is on Livingston Avenue, and I can go clean up the litter one day, and the next day it looks like I haven't done anything. So that's really stymieing economic growth and development there, just the perception that nobody cares. So thank you, Councilmember Remy. I'll definitely forward that to you, and we'll have a conversation. All right, thanks.
Thank you. Next, we have Ms. Felicia Saunders.
Good evening. Thank you for having us out here today. I have three questions and concerns. My first is, are there going to be grants this year like they did last year for the neighborhood grants where you can use it for we do a youth summit every August. My son was murdered in Columbus in my neighborhood in East Haven, and I'm the president of the East Haven Civic and Block Watch Association. Every August we do a youth summit with the Think, Make, Live organization. The CEO is Noonie Green, and we use those funds to help children develop leadership skills, health and fitness. We talk about stopping the violence in our community and just showing them how to be community leaders. And I was just wondering if that would be available and when they would be releasing the information about that. Okay. And then my next one is, at the intersection of James Road and Ravenswood Court, that intersection is very dangerous. For 5 years, I've been asking for a traffic study, and all I do, I call 311. 311 said that they don't handle it. It goes to ODOTs. Try to contact someone at ODOTs and never got back with me. We have an accident there at least once a month, and there was a young lady last year that was on a motorcycle, and she got hit. She was on the back of the motorcycle and got dragged, and there was another person in the car happened to catch the driver to get him to stop before it killed her, and that and we need something done there. I mean, the neighborhood has increased with the new housing development with Elam Estates, and they have a senior citizen living over there, so we have a lot of emergency service that comes in and out of the neighborhood. We have an elementary school there, so there's always school buses coming in and out of there, and we just need some help right there because I'm just afraid someone's going to get killed there. And then my last question is, 5 years ago, I came into one of these meetings and I asked about a rec center, a community center on the southeast side of Columbus. There is none at all on the southeast side of Columbus, and we really need something there. We do have a East Haven Community Park, and the children go there and have a good time. And I asked them, if you keep this park clean and you guys don't graffiti the playground, what can I go to the mayor's office and ask them what you need? They said they want a community center. So I was just wondering, where is it in the plans for a community center on the southeast side of Columbus? And I thank you for my time.
Thank you very much. What was the cross street with James Road? Ravenswood Court. Thank you.
Yes.
And the grants that you used for the youth summit, I want to talk to you afterward. We want to talk to you afterwards about where you got it from. I don't know what that, unless it's ringing a bell for one of you. I don't know what the source was previously. So we'll want to follow up to see if that same source exists this time.
My understanding is they are going to have those grants again this year, from what I've been told. I would like to verify that.
Is that neighborhoods?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. That's something that Gail Gray usually administers. If I had to think, I think it the timing of it was, I want to say May or so last year. So we'll definitely look into that and get back with you on that.
And that would be the neighborhoods department. So we'll make sure that they follow up on that. And then public service on the intersection. Do you have anything on that, Councilmember Remy, or we'll talk to the department about their schedule there?
Yeah, we'll definitely put it on I'll make sure that somebody gets back to you specifically about that, as I'm sure Mr. Liggett will as well. So. Yes.
And the rec center on the southeast side, Director Rakoski, if you could speak a bit about the Recreation and Parks has a master plan. We have parts of our city that need rec centers. We have several parts of our city that are underserved by rec centers. Those are capital investments, and we know that we need to catch up. We're a continually growing city, so it's about finding the funds and being able to make those investments on a year-over-year basis, and you're absolutely right. So, Director Rakoski, if you have anything that you want to add about the master plan, you can, but yeah.
Chair Brown, it's clear that there are underserved areas within the city, and this is one of those areas. Our focus recently has been on, we had many centers that didn't have air conditioning within the center, so one of the things that we have been doing is trying to take care of some of the assets that we currently have that were in really bad disrepair and that didn't have air conditioning. But we do understand, based on the master plan, that there are areas, and this is currently one of those areas. So as we look to build new centers and add to the number of centers that we have, this will be one of the areas that we're clearly going to be looking at. And along with that, just to be honest with everyone, obviously comes staffing the center and maintaining the center, so it adds operating cost on the other budget that we've talked about tonight. But be assured that when we look at new centers and adding to it, this is clearly one of the areas that is underserved in regard to the centers.
Absolutely, and Director Collins recognizes that too when I talk to him personally about priority areas, that the Southeast is one of them.
And we're also exploring, Director Collins, I know we've been in conversations. I see Vice President Michael Cole in the back there for the school board, but good evening. We are also exploring other alternatives, so not necessarily building brick and mortar, but potentially using schools that are in the area and finding either third party like the YMCA, Boys and Girls Club, and that sort of thing to do programming and staffing of those buildings as well, so that it's not longer term, we want to have rec centers, but on the other hand, in the near term, if we can put together some partnerships like that and utilize some of the public's buildings as well, we could get things moving a lot faster. And so I know Director Collins is committed to that, and there's a number of us on council that are looking at those opportunities, and so we'll continue to explore those in an expeditious way.
And finally, we have our last speaker of the evening is Mr. John Ellers, visiting us from the Northwest Civic Association. Hi.
Thank you very much. Very much appreciate the opportunity to address you. I understand that you heard from someone from our group at the Far East. We're that little green section up in the upper left of the map. Northwest Civic, we have a problem up there. We are surrounded by neighbors who generate tax dollars, spend their tax dollars within their border. We have a different kind of a situation in that City of Columbus, but our schools are most of the residents within our service area are either Dublin schools, Arlington schools, or Worthington schools. Centennial is the only public high school within our service area. It's probably the most diverse school in Central Ohio. I think there's over 40 countries, native or first generation students. And so we lack an identity up there. And this is perhaps a segue to what we were just talking about in community centers. We need a meeting place. We need a place to congregate. We need a place to be able to explore our identity. We don't have a facility such as this in order to be able to invite groups to come up to that northwest section. The 2014 master plan for recreation and parks, we were 4th or 5th among 5 study areas in virtually all of the metrics for service of recreation and park resources. And so we need a meeting area, a place to congregate, and there is a piece of land, as I'm sure you've heard. It's about a 60-acre parcel across the street from the airport. It's being used as a sheep farm for Ohio State. It's available for sale. We have worked with Representative Duffy, thank you, from Worthington, who has written into the transference law that the City of Columbus has until the end of July to commit to purchasing this property. This doesn't necessarily mean writing a check and having the cash transfer, but just making a commitment. It's $5.5 million for the land. For the 60 acres, there'll be substantially more, of course, for development and for operations, but we feel confident with some private donations that are in line, if the land is secured, that we can make the ends meet. So we seek your support on that. It's a difficult sell, I understand, but it's something that's probably the most important issue to the folks up in that green section in the upper left-hand corner. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We have heard a lot from you and other members of the Civic, as well as just neighbors in the green section, as you point out, and thank you for your advocacy. And I think we'll be seeing you at all the hearings from what I've gathered from your colleagues, your advocacy colleagues. And we understand that the issue is important, and also that there's this one-time opportunity due to the sale. So it is very much something that Rec and Parks is looking at, and we're all trying to understand as best we can. Thank you. With that, we have no further speaker slips. I really want to thank my colleagues and the directors and assistant directors for being here. And I want to thank all of you for coming out on a Tuesday night and joining us and asking questions and being very honest with your feedback. We appreciate it very much. And I want to stress that the conversation doesn't end here. For those of you who did speak, and those of you to whom we owe follow-up, you will get it. To those of you who didn't speak and you still have questions, you can come up to us now. You can be in touch with us later. Please sign in with Miss Nancy Sully in the back so that we have your contact information and can get back to you with really any question. We're talking about capital investments here tonight, but we know that there's a lot that goes on in your neighborhoods and you have questions across the board. I'm personally proud that it's only 8:04, and and we kept mostly to being able to respect your schedules. Before I close, I want to highlight a couple dates and then a couple thank yous. We have, again, this is the second of 4 field hearings. Our next one is tomorrow, April 11th. 6:30 to 8 o'clock to discuss planning areas on the west side. That's at Glenwood Community Center. Then our 4th of 4 hearings is Saturday, April 14th from 2 o'clock to 3:30. That's to discuss our north planning areas, and that takes place at the Linden Community Center. I also as I said, the conversation continues. I want to highlight that I wasn't kidding when I said I was going to have a baby any second. My due date's Sunday. So at some point, it's possible that Second Chair Remy will be taking over maybe a field hearing, maybe a council hearing. I'm not really sure. But our target date for first introduction to council is Monday, and then second reading at council will be the following Monday, April 23rd. So please, you can always be in touch with my office, but it also may get kicked to Second Chair Remy at that point. I want to thank Ms. Brianna Ross for hosting us at her center today, and I want to thank CTV for making sure that we've got public record for this meeting and putting all of your beautiful faces on CTV. I want to thank Mayor Ginther and Auditor Kilgore, who are absolutely integral in making sure this budget happens every year. The mayor proposes a robust budget. The only way we end up getting it done is making sure that the bond sale occurs with Auditor Kilgore. And then the staff that not only pull off the budget, but pull off these hearings, which I think are really important to the budget process. In finance and management, the director, of course, his deputy director, Gian Gardella, and then Rob Newman and Kyle Severhart, who are here in the front row and just do so much work to make sure that this budget gets put together in a timely manner. City council staff, Matt Erickson, Aaron Gibbons, Nancy Pryor-Sully, and the rest of the city council team. And then I want to thank my team, Kelsey Ellingson and James Carmine, for doing so much to pull this off. So with that, I will close and thank you all very much for being here.